then, as we've already seen, your instructor's kind of sat some of you guys down. He's had you guys play some board games. So, I think honestly, when it comes down to talking about entertaining, that's definitely a good start. The thing about board games is that, like, a lot of us have grown up on games like Monopoly, Sorry, Don't Break the Ice, Don't Wake Daddy. There was a lot of classic games that many people can relate back to, but games have evolved. Board games, especially, have evolved far, far, far from what we used to know. It used to be you could get a new style of board game and you'd receive it, say, in like a Ziploc baggie, and it would come with instructions and pieces and tell you how to play. But since then, small style hobby stores have opened up all across the United States, and they are filled. Their shelves are just stocked to the brim with different styles of games. You've got survivability games. You've got betrayal games, games that pit player against environment, similar to Man versus Nature. You have games that pit player versus player, like Man versus Man. You have games that pit player against themselves, Man versus Self. There are board games that reach out and reach into many, many different styles of conflict, and I would definitely urge you guys to get out and try to investigate some of the local game stores around your area. I mean, games have found many different ways to involve us. They've evolved to match the attention span of the people around them. And actually, our local game store, even Chaos Games and More, has offered to allow us, if we're allowed to, come up to your class for the next one. They've released us many different board games. We have over 40 different board games that we're going to be able to bring up and then allow you guys to play, so you can kind of get the opportunity to experience cooperative and solo gameplay. There are actually board games that you can play against the board game, similar to like a game of solitaire where you're playing against the game itself. Or we have co-op board games where you have 2 players, 4 players, 6 players, 8 players. There's a lot of different varieties, so we'll be trying to bring those up so you guys can check them out. But one thing I did want to wrap it up and talk about, so it is kind of what I do down here. For me, gamification was a really important concept because you see a lot of different things, like holidays particularly will bring about depression, and people don't have a way to get an outlet for this or find a way to communicate with people or talk to others. And places like a Pokemon League or a Yu-Gi-Oh! League or a Magic League, these can be places where people can go and feel comfortable with those that they're around. They can feel like they can have friends, they can make family, even memories. So what we do down here is we run a small Pokemon League every single Sunday. We start registration 3 to 4, and usually within that time all of our players start coming in. We have about 25 to 35 players every single Sunday who come up in attendance, and it's just a great time. We incorporate a lot of different gamification tactics. We've been in we've been volunteering at the store for about 8 years now. I've been working there for about 5, and it's just been a great experience bringing our gamification into the gameplay area and trying to see how we could use that to break down different barriers. So we have a lot of players who are different ethnicities, transgender, multigender. We have a lot of different style players, and we try to find ways to make them always feel comfortable so that your first experience will always be your last experience, because you will just be there for the rest of the time. Our players usually, if we get a good player that kind of likes to stick around, they stick around for about 3 to 4 years. We have a pretty good retention rate for them. One of the ways that we do it, we'll just start off with a few of the programs real quick, just to name them off. We got the credit program, so whenever you come into a tournament, you'll pay about $5. The $5 gets booster packs to throw into the pool. 50 cents of that gets circulated back into the league, so every time somebody's paying in, 50 cents of what they paid goes back into the league, so we can use that to pay for new players. We can buy them mats, we can buy them dice, we can buy them decks, whatever they need to feel more comfortable. We have 4 different professors on staff who pay attention and try to observe how the players are feeling, what they might be missing out on, what they might need, and then we try to see a need, fill a need, if any of you have seen the Robots movie. Another program that we have is the Guardian program. It's one of my favorite programs. So things that communities forget about a lot is that people who've been there for a while have a sort of crystal intelligence that they've held on to, and if you can tap into that, then you can use that to better foster a stronger community that has better communication and has better knowledge development, I guess would be the best way to put it, skill development. So what we do at the program is if you've been there for a year as part of the league, then whenever we get a new player who comes in, you will be a guardian upon them. You're a guardian of the spirit of the play. And your job is to pay more attention to the play environment than your average player. So you're monitoring for unfair trades, trying to make sure that the trading within the area stays fair and everybody feels like they're getting the good end of the deal when it comes down to it. And your new players aren't getting vamped by your older players who kind of feel less moral restrictions about ripping people off. Another thing that they do is they'll monitor health. So it has occurred in the past, especially at our league, where players will have seizures or players have medical issues that they don't really like to bring up right away. And sometimes that'll create a problem within your tournament. So guardians will be some of the first people to go and seek out a professor and try to bring them back and bring them into the area and try to make things better. And another way is that they watch over the new players. So when a new player enters into a play environment, when somebody sets themselves up in a position of authority, sometimes people have a problem relating to that. They'll relate to that as a last need when they need it as an enforcer, but they don't relate to it as somebody to go and talk to about their problems, and that's where a guardian will come in. They're there to not only listen to some of your concerns, but they're also there to introduce you to other players and to guide you through the gameplay basics of the game. So they do everything they can to make you feel like you're part of the family before you get to know the family. And that's just some of the tactics that we've used to kind of edge people in and use the game itself to create its own regulated environment and keep players coming back. So you guys have listened to me talk a lot about gamification concepts, games, stuff like that, but what I want you guys to take away from this is to understand that games are not, again, I guess the best way to put it, I always try to find some fancy way for it, but games are not a waste of time. Many of you have probably been gamers most of your lives, and I can promise you that you've developed strong memories through those games, and I would even go so far as to wager that those games were responsible for a lot of your emotional judgment, your emotional intelligence, your emotional reasoning, your puzzle memory. There's a lot of stuff that games can help us develop, and I think that we need to spend a lot more time focusing on that. So, again, we're going to try to see if we can come up, bring you guys some board games, do some demos with you guys, and show you guys kind of how board games have evolved, because we've gone past the days of Monopoly and Sorry. People like Steve Jackson, your teacher had actually mentioned him recently. I thought that was pretty cool. One of his games, Munchkins, is a game that we play quite frequently at Chaos. There's many different variations of that game to appeal to all sorts of different styles of the culture. So we'll be bringing some Steve Jackson games to play with you guys. We'll be bringing different games that involve time travel, games for survivability, and yeah, I would urge you to get out, check out your local game store. There's people there waiting to be your friends. There's games there waiting to be played, and in the end, I promise you, it'll be an experience worth remembering. Go out and try a game you haven't tried before. It's good meeting you guys. Again, my name's Jeebus. Thanks for your time.